Okay, Sounds of Decay 3.
This is a flock named Murder with Incendiary Sanctum. A flock named Murder might at first glance seem like an odd name for a band that so skillfully blends black metal's weird in the woods vibe, the layered weight of doom, the technical brutality of death metal, and the reflective atmosphere of post metal. Their moniker might sound at first like a house band for a goth ornithology club. Type a flock into the Google machine and it helpfully suggests of seagulls? No, no, Google, sit down and chew your gum. One glance at the album cover for Incendiary Sanctum, a towering, entrail glowing skeleton ghoul pouring time from an hourglass into a bubbling cauldron, splashing molten orange all over panicked humans like Satan's crockpot, and it's obvious you're not dealing with new wave. These are not birds of a feather, but dig a little deeper and the name clicks into place. A group of crows is called a murder because their collective calling is pure chaos and unease, which is also a pretty decent description of these four epic tracks laid down by the Ontario based trio. Each one builds a sprawling sonic cathedral and then burns it down, only to rebuild it with the same bricks, just at weirder angles. Clocking in at 14 to 18 minutes each, it's like War and Peace with blast beats and a corpse paint editor's note. And like Tolstoy's epic, where the themes are war, love, loss, and the human condition. Except here, the ideas swirl around the concepts that worship, whether of gods, idols, or history, can justify atrocities.
Chapter 1, Gardens of Embers, begins how else with the crackling sound of fire. Carnivorous flames licking and devouring in slow, deliberate gulps. Ryan Muller's solitary guitar creeps in languid at first, getting its own licks in. A cymbal crashes, stirring something in the dark, and soon the riffs begin to crunch forward, rising from a death knell pace. Drummer and brother Cam Mueller starts with doom-heavy thuds before anxiety tightens its grip and the blast beats kick in like a panic attack translated into percussion. Mike Wandy's vocals finally emerge, shaking off the death shroud like a rasp, like an old gas furnace roaring to life. First the hiss of ignition, then the full flame. Midway through, Ryan's tremolo picking becomes a trembling finger pointing into the void, full of despair. At other times, he pulls out a gloomy refrain full of burden. Tempo shifts flow in and out like mood swings, agitated, restrained, and back again. But unlike some bands whose quiet parts feel like they loaned the studio to Steely Dan or a wistful bard, a flock named Murder never softens into pastels. Their palette stays locked in shades of pitch, charcoal, and storm-cloud gray, always bleak and always burning. Let's play a clip. This is Gardens of Embers.
Chapter 2, Pierced Flesh Catharsis, kicks off with Ryan Muller's riff so abrasively crunchy. I mean, imagining opening a jar of peanut butter and they forgot the butter. Those jagged riffs quickly settle into an off-kilter groove, like an electric mixer running a little too fast. Cam Muller's drumming veers from spectral pop and roll to snare hits so rapid it's like the drum kit is hyperventilating. Later, he throws in some rimshot abuse, clonks, clangs, and offbeat strikes that turn the rhythm section into a full-blown riot. Ryan's guitar flows in unexpected directions, sometimes like a burbling brook, sometimes an undercurrent. Meanwhile, Wendy's bass pulls low and thick, a saltwater taffy being stretched too far and threatening to snap. There's a brief pause in the deluge, a moment of guitar strums that offer no comfort, while Cam's drums slow to a grim march. It builds a disjointed tango, each instrument pulling its own direction, like dancers arguing mid-spin. Later, a guitar riff returns like a half-remembered refrain, haunting in its familiarity, while the drums lapse into blast beat tantrums.
Wandy's vocals are pure fury, a gnarled, pissed off wizard realizing his potions have been sabotaged, spitting curses from behind a cloud of drumfire. The whole band layers up into something dense and ancient, like sedimentary rocks stacked by centuries of sonic pressure. The final minute is pure mood, a lingering feedback hum, like a flat line, as church bells toll from the ruins. It's a funeral for faith echoing from a crumbled altar. Chapter 3, The Eulogy Fields, which I can only assume is the grim spiritual sequel to The Killing Fields, opens like a seance gone off the rails. The drums immediately roll from menacing to manic, like a poltergeist got hold of the sticks and he's surging with unfinished business. The guitar wanders in a haze, oscillating, shimmering, and cycling through a pattern like a ghost retracing the same cursed path.
The vocals, it's like they're rasped out of a throat locked in rigor mortis, dry, cracked, and absolutely a final scream. Twice the chaos pauses for eerie interludes. Clean strums meet cymbal burst while Cam taps at the drums like a curious cat lapping at a saucer of milk, delicate but never fully at ease. The second break builds slower, a lone guitar trying to soothe itself with a lullaby but never finding solace. Eventually, it spirals into a whine of desperation, a distress signal. A moment worth rewinding, a staccato flurry of guitar lands. Yes, that's the sound. Riding over popping percussion and a pulse you wish would keep on going, but it doesn't. Instead, a vocal snarl erupts like an unburied grudge, followed by a riff bursting out of the ground like a zombie with unfinished business and blast beats chasing it like hellhounds at full sprint. The final minute fades to pure atmosphere, a single sustained tone dissolving into a gust of wind like a storm building in a forgotten graveyard.
Chapter 4, To Drown in Obsidian Tides. Whew, we made it. If you've hung in this long, go ahead and pull up a hammock, steep some tea, and read the leaves, because this beast clocks in at a casual 17 plus minutes, the second longest track on the album. The bass takes center stage here, dripping notes like stilling blood, low and ominous. The vocals come in decayed and rusted over, like a centuries-old hinge groaning and screeching to life, and there's no WD-40. The drums play a dangerous game of stop, drop, and roll, and then erupt into flames anyway. The first guitar hook is so sharp, it'll snag you in some involuntary air guitar. A stretch of loose, slightly off-kilter guitar ramps up the paranoia, like a soundtrack to realizing someone's watching you through the blinds. Drum dapples scatter, smack around, gather traction in a groove, and then splinter again like cracked ice. Midway, we get a whooshing solo packed with high-pitched squeals and enough noodling to rival a Chef Boyardee factory. The bass flickers and burps like it's bubbling in a molten tar, while the guitar sings a second, more mournful melody, like sunlight briefly catching on a grave marker before a cloud cover returns.
Then it all speeds up. Machine gun drumming, shivering panic room guitars, and a vocal delivery like a T-Rex howling in rage because his arms are too short to punch the sky. There's a jazzy detour, clubby cymbal rolls, and drums that sway like a belly dancer's hips before one last eerie close. Tolling church bells return. A lone rabbit bolts ahead of the gathering gloom, and if you squint into the shadows, you'll spot a guy with a cardboard sign that reads, "The end is near." Incendiary Sanctum is a funeral dirge for the divine, a blackened post-metal meditation on worship, memory, and the hollow silence that lingers after belief has burned to the ground. This is the soundtrack for when the idol crumbles and all that remains is ash, echo, and questions too heavy to lift. Probably not ideal for cleaning the house, unless you're purging a haunted monastery, that is. But fans of Allagath, Cult of Luna, Runes of Beverast, and Immolation will gladly lose themselves in the sprawling, scorched earth sonic tapestry. Oh, and you might want to bring snacks. Let's play a clip. This is To Drown in Obsidian Tides.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.